I'm just back from India. My country of origin is the world's largest democracy, but it did something this week that my next guest describes as an assault on the foundational principles of Indian democracy. At issue is the country's Citizenship Amendment Bill, passed into law on Thursday with an assent from the president. The bill offers a road to Indian citizenship for Pakistanis, Afghans, and Bangladeshis, but not if they are Muslim. Angry protests have broken out over the new law. Indeed, India has had to deploy thousands of troops to quell the violence. Joining me now is Shashi Tharoor, a former diplomat, now a member of parliament from the opposition Congress party. Shashi, explain what you mean when you say that this bill is against the idea of India.
Well, you see, basically, Fareed, when our nationalist movement against the British split, it didn't split on ideological grounds of Marxist versus capitalist or in geographical grounds of North versus South. It just split on one principle: should religion be the determinant of nationhood? And those who believe that religion determines their nationhood, that was the idea of Pakistan, and they created Pakistan out of the partition of India. But the rest, led by Mahatma Gandhi, Jawaharlal Nehru, Muslim leaders like Maulana Azad and Badshah Khan, they said, no, our freedom struggle has been for everybody, of every religion, and we will create a free India for all. And the Constitution of India reflects that sense of equality, of non-discrimination. Freedom of religion has been built into the Constitution as a fundamental right, including the freedom of worship and the freedom to proselytize. So it's a completely liberal democratic constitution. And for 70-odd years, India has been run on the basis of such a constitution. What's happened, however, is for the first time in 2014, a movement has come to power, and come to power with its own absolute majority. It was earlier in power in a larger coalition where it didn't come close to a majority, but here it's come to power with a majority in parliament, and it believes profoundly that India was wrong to be a secular, liberal, pluralist society, that it should be a Hindu Rashtra. And their logic is that because Pakistan was created for Muslims, what remained as India should be a country for Hindus. And this philosophy is fundamentally antithetical to everything that our republic was built on, which was a country for everyone.
And this is all happening in an atmosphere over the last few years of this Hindu nationalism. For example, there have been dozens, if not hundreds, of cities and towns with historically Muslim names dating back often to the 16th, 17th century, which have been renamed. There have been vigilantes, mobs who have killed Muslims, and the police has done nothing. Is the situation getting worse?
Well, we've been through all of this, Fareed, that you mentioned. And what bothers me about this as a Hindu myself is that Hinduism, traditionally the Hinduism in which most of us have been brought up, is a religion that respects and accepts difference, that says to others, I will respect what you understand to be the truth. Please respect what I understand to be the truth, and we can live and let live. That's how India has flourished. That's why we've had a country of 180 million Muslims and fewer than a dozen members of ISIS or Al-Qaeda. That's the strength of India that is being unfortunately attacked at its very roots by the people entrusted with the safety and security of our country.
Shashi, finally, the reporting out of Kashmir, there's been a long New York article. The other stuff by Rana Ayub is pretty frightening. It describes what can only be described as a police state, where this is India's only Muslim majority state. What are you hearing out of there?
Well, I'm hearing much the same sort of thing, though the Indian media has been fairly shamefully quiet. I think the New Yorker piece by Dexter Filkins, whom I knew as a correspondent during the Yugoslav Civil War, was sound but undercover reporting. He wasn't there openly going around speaking, and that's the sad thing, that an Indian state, even at the worst of the terrorist troubles, the sectarian violence, the militants who were being sent across the border from Pakistan to wreak havoc in Kashmir, even at that time, the press was able to go and see and observe and report, and the Indian media as well. Whereas today, there is almost the silence of the graveyard coming out of the media and out of Kashmir. It's deeply worrying. Many of us have said to the government, why don't you allow an all-party delegation of Indian MPs to go and see the situation for themselves? I said it in Parliament when the Kashmir debate first happened. It still has not been agreed to by the government. Other politicians attempting to go have been turned back in the airport. So we don't have first-hand insights. But what we're hearing in bits and pieces from people who've gone in and out is dismaying and worrying. And at some point, they will actually have to lift the lid. You cannot keep a state under this kind of de facto lockdown for so many months. And when they lift the lid, I think they will have to face up to the consequences of their totally unnecessary and arbitrary action in overnight changing the status of Kashmir.
Shashi Tharoor, always a pleasure to have you on. Up